And greetings YouTube gamers, welcome to another episode of Retro Raider. My name is Johnny Retro and welcome to the channel. Okay, today is a very special episode because we're going to talk about the Atari 2600, which is turning 40 years old today. You know, that's right, the original Atari 2600 is 40 years old and I have so much to talk about this system. So I'm just going to share with you guys my personal thoughts and opinions about the Atari 2600, my relationship with this system, and why do I collect for it. Now, of course, that I don't have any memories playing the Atari 2600 because this system was released 11 years before I was even born. As a matter of fact, I think that the first time that I've heard about the Atari was back in 2006 when I got into retro gaming collecting. You know, I was looking for systems that I didn't have, that I didn't knew, and I stumbled upon the Atari 2600 on YouTube. So I've watched a couple of gameplays, a couple of reviews of the system, and to be honest with you, it didn't caught my attention. You know, I grew up with the PlayStation 1, the Mega Drive, and when I first saw footage of the Atari 2600, those games seemed, too old for me. Very basic gameplay, games that didn't age very well. And although it is true, I think that it's also part of the charm of the 2600. Now, a couple of years after that, I can't recall the exact year, but it was probably around 2012, 2013, on a gaming convention here in Lisbon. This was not a retro gaming convention, but it had a retro gaming section there. And they had an Atari 2600, a working unit right there with Space Invaders. So there was no one around, and I just picked the joystick, a joystick exactly like this one, and I just started playing Space Invaders. And it was not the first time that I've played Space Invaders, because, a couple of years prior to that, during the PlayStation 2 era, my father gave me this. And he told me that it was a game that he used to play it on the arcades when he was a kid, and, it didn't caught my attention. But nowadays, this is a piece that I treasure a lot in my collection. But it was indeed the first time that I've played Space Invaders on the Atari 2600. So I just started to play the game, and I was with a couple of friends there, and they actually came to me and said, dude, let's do another thing. Because I've spent half an hour playing Space Invaders. So I basically just spent half an hour playing that, and that was the click right there. That's when I said, this is amazing, I need to give a try to the Atari 2600. And a couple of years later, I got this unit with a bunch of games, and I've been collecting for the 2600 for about 2 years now. And there it is right here, the game that got me into the Atari 2600, Space Invaders. And that is just one example, so why do I think that the Atari 2600 is still relevant to this day? Compared to other 8-bit systems like the NES or the Master System, the Atari 2600 is actually a very primitive form of gaming, but it has reshaped gaming as a whole. Because this is the granddaddy, this is the birthplace of video game consoles. Now, although this was not the first video game console using cartridges, in fact there was a whole generation prior to this one, this to me, on a historical point, it was the turning point for gaming. It was the first true arcade experience at home. It was revolutionary, it really was, and I think that even nowadays on modern gaming, we can still find influences of these old games. You would definitely not have your platformers, your shooters, your strategy games, because this is the birthplace, and this year, 2017, is actually going to be a big year for the Atari 2600. Not only because it's turning 40 years old, but due to the retro gaming trend right now, there's actually going to be a lot of products related to this one. There's of course the new Atari Flashback, and for you guys who don't know about the Atari Flashback, it is a line of plug-and-play consoles related to the Atari 2600. Atari Flashback is actually a very good place to start if you're new into the Atari 2600, because you have a variety of classic games within each model. We are also going to have the Atari Bots, and Hyperkin, the company that made the Retron 5, is actually going to release the Retro 77, which pretty much like the Retron 5, it is a system that is going to run your original 2600 cartridge outputting HD. Now, if you want to collect for the original hardware, I actually did a video with 5 suggestions for new Atari 2600 collectors. I will leave a link to that video in the description box below, so feel free to check it out. Now, I just want to say one last thing. As a gamer, do I play a lot of Atari 2600? No, to be honest with you, I don't play a lot of Atari 2600. In fact, I think it's a very cool system to play in multiplayer. So when I have friends over, we just plug this to the TV and, have some fun. But me personally, there are other systems, both retro and modern, that I just prefer to spend my time with. But as a video game collector, this is actually one of my favorite systems to collect for. Not only is still a very cheap system to collect these days, the library of this is just amazing. It is so vast, you have a lot to pick from. And the homebrew community, programmers and game designers that still make new content for older systems. There are so many new games released for this system every year, and that to me really keeps the spirit of the 2600 alive. So to me, preserving this piece of gaming history, each time that I get a new Atari 2600 game that I've never heard before, each time that I play with my Atari 2600, it's really like reading a history book. It really is, each game is like a different lesson for me. Because I'm not just a gamer and I'm not just a collector, I'm actually a guy that likes to explore the whole history of video games. And like I said in the beginning of the video, although I didn't grow up with one of these, I still find some matches between this and the modern era of gaming. So to wrap up this video, I want to say happy birthday Atari 2600. And for you guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and please let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the Atari 2600? Did you grow up with one? Do you collect for it? Or it is just not your thing? Also, don't forget to put a like on this video, please subscribe to the channel, and take care of yourselves, take care of the gaming community, and game a lot.